I'm not exactly sure how to pitch this video after Liverpool's 2-2 draw against Aston Villa, because there are quite a few positives and also a few negatives from this game, and I'm not sure where the truth really sits, probably as ever in the middle. I mean, start with the positives really. This is another tough fixture out the way for Liverpool, isn't it? They're now 8 points clear in the Premier League title race. They're 22 unbeaten. And when you look at the underlying numbers in this game, you think that Liverpool deserve to win it overall. I mean, they take 17 shots to Aston Villa's 9. They generate 2.44 expected goals to Aston Villa's 0.73. And so you look at that and it should have really been an easy and straightforward win for Liverpool when you look purely at those numbers. But it's hard to shake the feeling that this was also, some of the negatives are also true in that this was a missed opportunity to go 10 points clear to essentially push Arsenal completely out of the title race, because, I mean, I don't care how strong mentally they are, to see a 10-point deficit there, even with a game in hand, would be an awful lot to deal with the problems that they've got in their squad. And the fact is, for all that those underlying numbers are very good, football is an incredibly simple game, isn't it? And it's all about being ruthless in both boxes. Top teams often show that, and they don't use the underlying numbers as an excuse, because they score the goals when they get the chances, and they stop the opposition scoring their goals when they get their chances, and of course limit them to very few of those. So Liverpool, they did very well in terms of creating chances, and they did very well in terms of limiting Aston Villa, but they conceded twice and they only scored twice. And when you do that, you don't win football games. You end up with a 2-2 draw, and that is really kind of disappointing. As I speak about kind of ruthlessness in both boxes, we saw so much of that at the start of the season. Liverpool were riding a little bit of a wave, weren't they? And they seem to be winning even the tight games, but that seems to have deserted them recently, and at the worst possible time, because those nerves are starting to kick in amongst supporters, because it's a crucial time in the title race and the time you want to really kick on and go and win it. And I mean, you're looking at the Premier League form in 2025, and it's won 5, drawn 4, which is, yes, not an absolute disaster. It's pretty decent form as well, but considering you already have a good lead, but it's just giving Arsenal that little bit of hope, isn't it? Keeping them just alive in the title race, which is absolutely not what Liverpool wanted to do. I mean, this is the period where they wanted to pull away and emphasise really how much better of a side they are than Arsenal. And I just think, there's been a few mitigating circumstances around some of those draws, some of those results, including today, where maybe you could say they were a little bit unfortunate, but I just think you can only kind of excuse it for so long, and Liverpool simply have to get back to being ruthless. They have to get back to finishing their chances and preventing the opposition from doing that, and making sure they get what they deserve from football matches, because if that doesn't happen, it doesn't take too long for the big lead that they've got to just get slowly chipped away at, and then, as I say, you're giving Arsenal hope before they get Bukayo Saka back that they may still be in the title race. So a bit of a disappointment on that front, I think, this game against Aston Villa. I think perhaps we can look at it and say that Liverpool are in a tough run of fixtures at the moment. This always looked like a really sticky period for them, didn't it? And perhaps if they get the other side of that, obviously they got City away at the weekend, but then after that it's 7 home games and 4 away games remaining in their Premier League season, which sounds mad to say. That's such an uneven calendar that they've got there, but that's exactly how it's going to play out. So that will probably help them to get over the line. And I wouldn't say I'm getting a little bit wobbly of thinking that Arsenal are going to catch up, because I think they just have too many issues, don't they, at the moment, particularly around goal scoring. And of course they have to come to Anfield, which is a bit of a nightmare for them because they very rarely win there. But I still think we want to see Liverpool get back to performing as well as they can as soon as possible, and turn a few more of those draws into wins, and then and just look a little bit more convincing, because it's just not quite there at the moment, and those fine margins aren't going for them. So I can understand why some fans will get really nervous. I'm not quite in that camp yet. But as I say, the sooner Liverpool get back to being a bit more ruthless in both boxes and showing the best of themselves, I think that would be absolutely better for everyone. Now, as for why they dropped points in this game specifically, I mean, I alluded to it there, but I think finishing is a massive problem for Liverpool at the moment. I say that, you look at the Everton game where they didn't create very much at all, so, quite lucky to get 2 goals in that. But in this game, it was a huge issue, really, is not being able to get more than 2 goals on the chances that he generated. And, the reasons for that are not really that difficult to pinpoint, are they? I mean, you look at Jota's finish in the first half when he gets through in a one-on-one situation. That's worth 0.45 expected goals. And You almost don't want to criticise him too harshly because he gets a good assist to open the scoring for Salah. I think his general all-round performance was pretty decent, but he has to be taking chances like that. That's why he's in the team. It's the thing we say about Diogo Jota so much, is that he's one of the best finishers, probably maybe second to Mo Salah in terms of finishing at the club. So when he gets opportunities like that, you don't want to see him balloon them wide, do you? And I mean, I sympathise with him really a little bit, because I think he's clearly lacking in rhythm. He's not playing his best football for obvious reasons, because he only made, this is what, his second Premier League start since October. It's been a really injury hit season for him, but they typically are for Diogo Jota. He's someone who picks up a lot of injuries, so when he comes in, you need him to hit the ground running. You can't afford to give him a couple of games to kind of get his rhythm back, and then he suddenly starts putting those chances away, because it can cost you, as it did in the game today. And of course, his replacement, Darwin Núñez, didn't really do much better in that regard either. I mean, you've got to go back, haven't you, to that open goal miss. It's a shocking miss, really. There's no other way to phrase it. It's, I see Szoboszlai's getting maybe a little bit of criticism for passing the ball, but he turns what is a difficult one-on-one opportunity with the keeper's big and out to him into, as I say, an open goal that is worth 0.76 expected goals. Some models may even have that higher when they take into account the fact it is an open goal. You just cannot be missing it. And I spoke about Jota, his lack of rhythm and his injury history. But with Núñez, we just know he is an erratic finisher, and sometimes this will happen, and you just kind of expect that for him. And I think it all kind of throws itself together, really, to the kind of talking point, really, that Liverpool, for me, top of the priority list, or maybe left back is top of the priority list, but coming into this summer, Liverpool desperately need a centre forward for me. Jota, too many injuries. Núñez not consistent enough, and of course I expect that he will go to Saudi. I think that is very, very likely to happen this summer. And of course you don't want to be playing Luis Diaz there. He is a left winger by trade. It's no coincidence that he suddenly gets put out on the left at the weekend and starts scoring goals again. That role doesn't necessarily fully suit him, although he's had many good games there. I just think Liverpool could do with a kind of world-class, nailed-on option starting in that centre-forward role, and you would feel a lot better about the attack and hopefully not see as many missed opportunities like we did today. And I know there's been some speculation this week that maybe Alexander-Arnold at Newcastle will be looked at, but for me that seems a little bit out there and very optimistic. I don't expect that Newcastle will sell Alexander-Arnold at all this summer, so I think he's hard to get, not just for Liverpool, but for any team, to be honest. But there are plenty of other quality options out there, and you'd like to think Liverpool would be able to identify one, because for me that's becoming a little bit of a problem position for Liverpool. So I think they really need to look into that, and I think today kind of underlined why. Now, of course, if you're missing chances at one end, you probably better be good at keeping them out at the other end. And unfortunately, Liverpool have got that horrible combination, the combination that no team wants to have, happened in this game, which is that they didn't finish off enough of the chances and they gave up goals when they gave up very few chances of their own. As I say, I think Villa take 9 shots, only get 4 on target, but they're only worth 0.73 expected goals. So Liverpool kind of limited the quality of the opportunities that Villa were generated. But if you concede 0.73 expected goals and concede 2 goals from it, that's not good enough. That's going to really hurt you. Again, similar thing happened at Goodison Park. Again, against Wolves, they didn't, they actually generated quite a lot, but the chance that Liverpool conceived from, very low XG. It's just, there needs to be a ruthlessness there to start keeping clean sheets again and stopping the ball going in the back of the net at all costs, and that isn't happening. You're seeing a bit of a soft centre from Liverpool, and again, as I say, it's happening at the wrong time of the season, really. So you just hope maybe it's a bit of fatigue, maybe they're just in one of those little unlucky runs. But it has to be stamped out immediately, because Liverpool need to start, as I say, turning draws into wins and getting back on a winning run to really kind of get hold of this title race. So that was one of the big disappointments, really, is that Liverpool, for me, in this game, were poor in both boxes. And another area of maybe, it's not necessarily concern, but one area I think that the manager maybe got it wrong for the first time. It's very rarely happened so far this season, and I didn't think his substitutions kind of came off for him. I've spoken about Núñez's performance. That wasn't very good at all. I thought Liverpool, Trent was really coming into the game and looking like a huge threat in the latter part, just before he got taken off. And for me, I understand why that sub's being made. It's obviously a fitness concern, but it didn't really work. I think Liverpool lost too much from Trent going off when he seemed to be starting to dictate it after his goal. Luis Diaz obviously not given very long at all. Again, is that a fitness concern there? Is there any reason for that? But it was too late for him to do anything in the game, really. And I get, again, I say a lot of these subs, I think it's the manager is managing his squad and trying to look after them and make sure he doesn't have fitness issues. But if you make substitutions like that are all about managing your squad, and then you don't go on and win, people are probably going to ask the question. People like me are going to ask the question whether that's fair or not. And you have to say it didn't really come off for him today. And of course, you got the double whammy really of bringing on Bradley, who didn't play as well as Trent was playing and wasn't as influential going forward, and then obviously picked up that issue there, the injury, and we hope that's not too long. But it just kind of summed up how the subs went, really, and that it didn't really play out. And I'm just going to finish up really by talking about one of the individual performances. Again, I'm talking about a little bit of a concern around this, really, is that the performance of Ryan Gravenberch for me was a little bit of a worry. I think some of the talk about him being leggy recently has been overplayed, but I think very much in this game you saw a little bit of that. He makes 0 tackles in the game, wins 1 out of 7 ground duels, completes 0 out of 2 dribble attempts. And he just looked tired. It looked like he had a lot of ground to cover and he couldn't get there. He looked leggy in a way that we haven't really seen too much of this season, and just a little bit concerned that his workload is much bigger than he's ever been used to in a single season, and that is starting to really tell. And at the end of the day, he needs to find that form back somehow, or the manager needs to make the brave decision to drop him and maybe bring in a Wataru Endo for a game if necessary, because I just don't think you can keep playing Gravenberch and hope that he's going to come back into form, because my little worry is that these minutes are now starting to add up and he's really starting to feel the pace. So hopefully some change there, whether that is Gravenberch showing better form or Endo coming in, but something I think needs to happen there, because I think he was his poorest performance of the season arguably, and he's been so important for Liverpool, and they need him in this latter part of the season to help them get over the line in the Premier League and to go and have a crack at the Champions League. So hopefully they can get him back to his best as soon as possible. Now I realise this review has been perhaps overly negative, really, considering that, as I say, all those upsides there. Liverpool just don't lose at the moment in the Premier League. They're 22 unbeaten, they're 8 points clear in the title race, and that is still a lot of pressure to be putting on Arsenal. And of course, they've just got one more of these horrendous, tough run of fixtures out the way, so they're just getting closer to turning it into basically mostly playing at Anfield over the latter part of the season. But as I say, I want to see that ruthlessness come back in both boxes, starting at Manchester City the weekend. That is such a crucial fixture, and I think because Liverpool have drawn 2 of this run now, they could really do with finishing it up with 6 points, couldn't they? Because I think, if you look at that, if you'd have said coming into this 5-game run that we all talked about being so crucial, you get 2 points from 2 away games at the start, 3 points against Wolves, and then another 6 points there. That wouldn't feel too bad, would it? 11 points from the potential 15. That would still probably be enough to keep Liverpool with a handy lead over Arsenal. Arsenal still having to come to Anfield, of course, and of course all the problems they've got in attack with all their injuries as well. So that wouldn't be too bad, but I think there's a little bit of pressure on Liverpool now to maybe win these next 2, but they are, of course, capable of doing it. I mean, we saw City get absolutely battered by Real Madrid tonight. We know that Newcastle, even though that's at the end and it's a tricky one, they've got to come to Anfield, where I'm sure the atmosphere is going to be raucous, particularly under the lights. So it's not overly negative, and try and keep it upbeat in the comments, because I know some people will maybe be feeling a little bit dragged down after that because it wasn't a win. I still think there's a lot of upsides to get into, but as I say, big couple of games coming up now where we need to see Liverpool, I think, get a couple of wins on the bounce, but we'll see how that goes, and all the build-up, of course, starts tomorrow. So do let me know how you're feeling in the comments about this one. It was a tricky game, wasn't it? But and I'd say Liverpool may be unfortunate not to win, but do let me know your thoughts. And as ever, if you can subscribe and like, always massively appreciate that. I'm going to wrap it up there and say I'll see you guys very soon.